Michigan's least favorite cop is headed for a trial on felony assault charges. We address the topic of lying cops, and a sergeant shows actual leadership, all on this week's episode of The Rebuttal. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer, and this is The Rebuttal, our weekly show where we tackle questions, clarifications from the comment section, and we give updates on cases we've covered in the past. As always, if you haven't seen the original video or any video that I'm talking about in any of these segments, all you have to do is pause here, go to the video description, click the link to the appropriate video that you need to catch up on, watch it, come back, and then you'll have context and understand what we're talking about. But I have to give you an announcement and sort of a warning, mostly for the guys. Boys, hide your wives because daddy's hair has grown back. I got it cleaned up a little bit. This is a hologram, which is a concept I introduced you to last time I went on vacation, but I'm actually in the Caribbean right now. It's Monday for you, but time stops for me, unless, of course, I got kidnapped by pirates while I was, somewhere I shouldn't be doing things I shouldn't be doing, in which case I'm sure time will slow tremendously for me, but that's not the point. I digress. Let's get back to it. The first item on our docket for the day is the case of Melvindale Police Lieutenant Matthew Furman, better known as Michigan's worst cop. Now, on December 1st, Mr. Furman had a preliminary hearing where the judge heard arguments as to whether or not the prosecution has been able to present enough evidence to bind the cases over for trial. In other words, a probable cause determination. So the news did a pretty good job of covering this actual hearing and the lead up to this. And I just have to say that the investigative reporter here, I believe his name is Ross Jones, has done an incredible job. But I truly believe that Mr. Furman would not be seeing any accountability had it not been for the reporting of WXYZ TV in Detroit. So let's just go out and check out their story. And then we have a couple things we'll talk about on the other side.
A Dearborn judge ruled today that the criminal case against a controversial Melvindale police lieutenant will go to trial, and the charges carry the possibility of years in prison.
Matthew Furman is accused of misconduct in office, felonious assault and battery over conduct that spanned years. Now, this was all brought to light by reporting from the 7 investigators.
7 investigator Ross Jones was in the courtroom today and has the very latest.
And what was going through your mind when you were initially tased?
I don't want to die.
A controversial Melvindale police lieutenant heard testimony today from drivers he's tased and officers he's worked alongside, part of a series of criminal cases brought by Wayne County's prosecutor.
What we see is not a police officer acting under the color of law or acting in accordance with his duties, but acting as someone who willingly thinks that they can do whatever they want on any given traffic stop to whomever they want.
The charges stem from 3 separate police stops that the 7 investigators first revealed. The first involved Drakar Williams, a man Furman stopped for driving around traffic barricades. Williams' license was suspended and his vehicle was not insured.
I said hands on the roof! Stop, or you will get taser!
Furman would repeatedly tase him.
Hands behind your back! You do it. He got me!
Do you know how many times he drive stunned Mr. Williams, or the driver?
Several times, but I don't know exactly how many times.
Testifying for the prosecution today was Furman's fellow officer, Lieutenant Humayun Rahman, who responded to the scene that day. After Williams was handcuffed, Furman was seen arguing with him again, and when he stood up, Furman did this.
You will not get up without our permission. Man, I gotta sit the down.
What's the reason that you didn't pull Mr. Williams' hair?
I didn't find there was any need for it.
Also testifying today, Alicia Cook, who was sitting in a parked car last year waiting to drop off her 11-year-old at cheerleading practice when Furman noticed her vehicle's insurance had lapsed. Cook said she was frightened by Furman's combative attitude, refusing his commands to get out of the vehicle.
I didn't understand why he pulled the taser. I didn't have any weapons in my hands. There's 2 children in the car.
You're gonna be tasered! Head out!
You understood that he told you to turn your car off, correct?
Right.
And he did it, I believe, 3 times, correct?
Yes.
And all 3 times you refused to comply, correct? Said yes?
Yes.
Also taking the stand today was Furman's former deputy chief, Nick Martinez. He admitted that the department didn't investigate all of the cases Furman is now charged over, but that he looked into at least one of them, the tasing of Drakar Williams.
I found there was policy violations in that case, and I turned it over to the chief.
But Martinez, who has since left the department, said he didn't remember what the violations were. And Furman's attorney argued that's because his conduct was justified.
Now, Judge, you may sit there and say, I don't like how Lieutenant Furman talks. Hell, you may say he's a real You may say that, and I understand that, but that doesn't make it criminal. That doesn't get us probable cause in this case.
Well, ultimately, Judge Sam Salome disagreed, binding over those two cases to circuit court, along with a third case involving a man who led police on a lengthy high-speed chase. Prosecutors say Furman stomped on his leg 15 times while he was being placed in handcuffs. Furman, as we've said, has denied any wrongdoing, calling himself a proactive police officer. He is next due in court on December 15th.
Well, there you have it. Notice there that the prosecutor misspoke initially, and he said he wasn't acting under the color of law, and then he kind of cleaned it up and basically tried to say that he was acting under the color of law, but not within the confines of his legal authority. So the state's position is essentially the same one that I generally take in most of my videos, which is that if a police officer exceeds their lawful authority, they pretty much position themselves no differently than any other citizen. And once you strip the privilege of the uniform and the badge, his conduct is criminal. It would be criminal if I did it. It would be criminal if you did it. If you saw somebody at the end of a pursuit and you walked up and started kicking them, then obviously that would be criminal if you weren't a police officer. So all the judge really had to do was determine whether the state had enough evidence to show that Furman's conduct exceeded his lawful authority as a policeman. And if so, that pretty much was the only thing needed for probable cause, because again, if it's more probable than not that he exceeded his authority, then this would be a crime for anybody else, so we got to push it forward to trial. Now, the truth is that if the state took a righteous position on this stuff all the time, there would be many, many more police officers prosecuted, but that's a fairy tale, if we're being honest. I mean, it's never going to happen. But I do have two favorite parts that the little dead devil inside of me just couldn't get past, and they are in this order. Number one, the joy I felt inside as I watched this smug piece of shit have to sit there at the defense table and live a moment that he never really thought would happen. If you remember, Jakar Williams told him, I'm going to have your badge. And he said something to the effect of, you're not going to do shit, motherfucker, because you're going to jail or something like that. So for him to have to sit there and watch this motherfucker who told him he was going to have his badge give testimony in a proceeding that will ultimately lead to exactly that, it was beautiful. And secondary to that, the fact that this lawyer knows that the only way he can mitigate this case in any way at all is just by acknowledging what everyone will know within 5 seconds of seeing any body cam interaction that involves Matthew Furman. And that is that he actually might be the least likable and most disgusting defendant this lawyer has ever represented. And look, I think Furman is either too dumb or too arrogant to take a plea, which means he's going to subject himself to the jury system. And that's actually even better, because I have full confidence that a very racially mixed jury in Wayne County is going to hang his ass out to dry within an hour of deliberations, and he will get the fruits of his labor by the time it's all said and done from this jury. But my wish list actually goes a step further, because I hope the voters of Wayne County get rid of the people who refuse to bring charges against him up to this point, and even give the jury an opportunity to right these wrongs. Because remember, he was too valuable to the city of Melvindale while he was racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in towing fees and other citation fees, while he was permitted to exact his brand of terror on the citizenry there. And I'll be surprised, honestly, if Melvindale isn't bankrupt in the next 5 years, all over their greed and allowing this cop to sort of wreak havoc on the city for the better part of a decade. On to the next item on our docket, and that is the topic of police being allowed to lie. This discussion really arose out of the video we did last week about Adam Gregg. That would be the Portland man who spent nearly 6 years of his life in prison, all while believing he was responsible for the death of a person who was still alive. And he believed that, and he did that time because the state withheld evidence about the status of the person who overdosed. Now, the entirety of the issues in this case were about the Brady violations that led to his plea. But the first thing I think I need to clear up is that it seemed like people were confused about what he actually went to prison for. He wasn't convicted for killing someone. He was convicted of selling drugs. And he actually did commit the offense of selling drugs. The issue was not that he was charged with a crime he didn't commit. The issue was that most people who are convicted of selling drugs don't get anything close to an 8-year prison sentence to serve in prison. They might get an 8-year sentence that starts with probation after a 30, 60, 90-day stint in jail or something, but they rotate out to paper. And in most cases, these folks are addicts themselves, and they're given an opportunity on probation, even if it's after a short service period in jail. So in this case, the prosecutors used his guilty conscience and the fact that they told him this person died to convince them if he didn't take their offer of serving this entire sentence, they were going to charge him with homicide. And because the person who overdosed actually survived, their lie strongly influenced his posture in plea negotiations. And it was a violation of Brady and Giglio for the state to withhold that information and also withhold the information about the previous misconduct of the investigators in this case, namely Tequila Thurman. But the primary reason I included this in the rebuttal this week is because I saw so many comments very early after publication where the audience was expressing genuine confusion over the police lying. And the argument in the comments was, well, the Supreme Court ruled that cops are allowed to lie to suspects. So what's the actual issue here? And I've been wanting to address this confusion for a long time because I see these comments in the videos all the time, and they very rarely apply to the actual circumstance that we're talking about. And it demonstrates to me, at least, that most people really don't understand how the Supreme Court works, because the statement that cops can lie is sort of a broad sweeping statement that you would think applies to everything. But the first thing you should understand is that the Supreme Court is not in the business of creating broad sweeping, bright line rules that everyone can understand and apply to given situations. In fact, they intentionally narrow their holdings to very specific fact patterns. And that's one of the reasons it's become so difficult to meet the clearly established law threshold that gatekeeps qualified immunity protections, because even one fact, if it's different, the courts will say, well, this case might be principally the same, but it's not factually the same. And so while the law might be clearly established that an officer can't do a certain thing here, it's not clearly established that an officer can't do it there because instead of wearing a red shirt, this defendant was wearing a green shirt. It's literally that stupid. So yes, it is true that in Frazier versus Cupp in 1969, the court basically ratified cops lying during custodial interrogations. But the key distinction there is that cops are allowed to lie when a person is a suspect. Once that suspect converts and becomes a defendant, the state has a duty of candor and it cannot lie anymore. And you have to understand really the phases and functions of the players in the system in order to really grasp that. But as I've told you before, after an arrest, that same police officer who was the sort of sole agent of the government in the pre-arrest investigation leading up to it, he basically is rendered nothing more than a complaining witness or a witness for the state in general. And the prosecutor is now the person who's representing the state's interest in prosecuting the defendant. And the prosecutor also has a duty of candor. And the 14th Amendment demands honesty from the state after a person converts from suspect to defendant. Plus, the cops are not even involved anymore after a person's charged. So it really is incumbent upon the prosecutor to make sure that the defendant is treated appropriately and that their rights are protected in the process of even being prosecuted by the government. And that's why the failure to disclose the information in Mr. Gregg's case was so egregious, because again, if he thinks that he killed somebody, he's much more likely to, especially thinking that federal charges might be coming, which the state prosecutor doesn't even have authority to bring, or a homicide charge might be coming, to say, well, I have killed somebody, this is the least that I could do because this person's not even alive anymore. And that guilt weighs on you. And he decided to take an 8-year sentence where he would have to serve most of it in order to get this part of his life past him. And so it really was egregious and it really was wrong. And that was really the focus of the nature of my commentary, was about, he would not have, he might have pled guilty to stealing drugs, but he would not have ever agreed to serve an 8-year sentence in prison. On to the third item on our docket, which I know is part of the week where some people like it and some people just want to fast forward through it. So that's fine. I'm getting ready to talk about Good Cop of the Week. If you want to fast forward, this is your time. By now, most of you have seen the case that Abiyah Israel featured on the new channel that he's doing uploads on, We the People You, regarding former Arkansas Senator Bill Walker being roughed up by the Little Rock Police Department. Well, in the midst of that shit show that LRPD created in the way that they handled that case, there was one thing that sort of stood out and, quite frankly, impressed me, and that was the way that Sergeant Alicia Meeker handled de-escalating this situation. And that was easy to get lost in all the chaos. But if you're not familiar, I'll leave a link to Abiyah's video in my video description. But basically, the LRPD patrol guys unnecessarily escalated a situation with former Senator Bill Walker on his property, cuffed him, roughed him up, arrested one of his employees, and he happened to have the mayor on speed dial, which meant a very bad day for him. So the mayor called the chief of police, the chief of police called Sergeant Meeker, and she swept in and really impressed me by what she didn't do. So let's check out a short edited compilation of the key moments of this particular part of the incident, and then we'll wrap it up on the other side.
Hey, have a seat. I'm going to talk to you, okay? Let me get them to calm down, okay? Okay, if you'll just have a seat in here, I'm going to talk to them, get everyone calm down, and then I'll come back and talk to you, okay?
Yes, I
If you'll
appreciate
just watch your head and duck in there, okay? I don't want you to hit your head. What?
Hey, let me tell them to calm down.
They're calming. I'm going to go talk to you. I'm really good.
Everybody calm down.
Get him off the ground. Okay, just have a seat in here. I'm going to come right back and talk to you, okay? I'm going to figure out what's going on. Hey, what's your name?
Sure, my name is Bill Walker, Senator Bill Walker.
Bill Walker. Okay,
Yes.
if Mr. Walker, if you will just have a seat in here, I'm going to come right back and talk to you. I'm going to try to get everyone to calm down.
Have you heard from your chief yet?
I believe he called me while I was running code, but I couldn't
I was
answer.
trying to get a hold of him, but if you would please let him know that you have me here.
Yes, sir.
I
I will
think the mayor's
absolutely.
already talked to him.
Yes,
And
sir.
I was trying to get you here. I asked for you, I requested you.
Yes, sir.
And this thing elevated to a whole new level.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not happy. I hope you got your recorder on. I do. Very good.
Let me figure out what's going on. Let me call my chief back, and I will be right back to talk to you, Mr. Walker. Yes, sir. What is going on?
Okay.
Chief is calling me on the way here. I can't answer because I'm running code.
Okay, so what originally happened, I'm going that way. I see one car speed past me in the wrong lane of traffic. He rolls window out and says that woman's chasing me. The woman chases him in the wrong lane of traffic. They go down this way. I literally hit Daisy Bates on Broadway. She fled and came to here.
Which one?
The woman over there.
in the car.
In the orange? The orange. That was over here. I'm not getting here with felony plea. I'm hitting her with failure to yield to emergency vehicles. I gave her a citation her vehicle to the code.
Let me call chief back.
You good?
I've got chief calling me while I'm running code. I just got on scene out here. Apparently Senator Bill Walker, they've got in a vehicle. I'm trying to get the story from everyone. Take him out of cuffs immediately. Kurtz, take Walker out of cuffs immediately. Yes. We're at Daisy Bates and Ringo. All right, I'm gonna call chief back. Bye. Her chief, get him out of cuffs. I just gave you a direct order to take him out of... Chief, I'm so sorry. I was running code. Take him out of cuffs now. Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. We've got Bill Walker out here. I just got out here. And then as I was getting the story, Baker called me and said he's on his way out here, and I've got officers not wanting to listen to me, so we're going to handle that. And then I told to call you back, so here I am. Yes, sir. Bye. You will meet me back at the substation after this.
He's on this side.
What's his name?
Givens.
Mr. Gibbons. Who are you in relation to Mr. Walker?
I'm his employee.
You're-
I work here.
You work here. Okay. Let me finish figuring out what happened, and we'll see what we can do, okay? If you can just hang out for me for
These
just a
be
second.
loosened, it's just tight on my right.
He has my key. Somebody must have taken it. Sorry, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just going to loosen just a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
That better?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Thank
right.
you.
If you'll just hang out for me, we'll see what we can get done here, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me lock that back so it doesn't. All right, shouldn't move now. Chester.
Hey, Chief.
Hey.
I'm right here with Sergeant Meeker.
Cluster?
Very much so. I'm going to let her kind of explain it to you because she got a better chance at getting it all right.
Okay.
So what happened was Officer Kurtz was traveling southbound on Broadway. He was flagged down by a guy saying that he was being chased by a woman. Officer Kurtz looks up and this vehicle, which is the blue Cadillac, is like swerving into oncoming traffic, like clearly chasing this guy. So Officer Kurtz lights the vehicle up, doesn't stop until here at Daisy Bates and Ringo, and this started at Daisy Bates and Broadway. It was Mr. Walker's daughter driving the vehicle, and she was cited for reckless driving, driving on suspended, and failure to yield to an emergency vehicle. It is parked here on his property. I know that policy says that we shall tow for driving on suspended. The tow truck is here, but if you want us to leave this vehicle on his property, we will dismiss this tow truck.
Yeah, send the tow truck away.
10-4.
Yeah, since it's on his property, it's his daughter. I mean, it's his property. He can leave it there. So, you know, we can leave it. So yeah, get rid of the tow truck.
10-4.
And so how did we?
So
how
why?
Did we detain him here?
So
I guess he came out.
Yes, he came out, and while they were about to do the inventory search, he was telling them that you're not going to search this vehicle, and Officer Kurtz was telling him to, you know, back up, and Mr. Walker requested me to the scene. From the time that I got requested to the scene to me getting out here, I guess Officer Kurtz raised his voice at Mr. Walker, and they were arguing back and forth about getting into the vehicle, at which point Kurt said, since you're not getting back, you're under arrest, puts him in cuffs and starts putting him in a vehicle, which is when one of his employees comes out and sees that Mr. Walker's in handcuffs and starts approaching officers, and he then gets put onto the ground.
Oh, lordy, man, they just don't make my job easy.
They don't.
No, they don't.
So what she didn't do, so many times in these cases, the supervisor shows up and somehow makes everything worse. They don't listen, they cop-splain, they escalate, and half the time the supervisor becomes the biggest problem on the scene, and that just didn't happen here. And I guarantee you, every single one of these guys hates working for her because she doesn't seem to take any of their bullshit. And it's been a very long time since I've seen a sergeant climb into a patrol cop's ass the way she did and demand accountability. When she gave that order, take him out of cuffs immediately, she meant immediately. And the second she realized that it was not met with the same immediacy that she meant when she said it, she demanded to know why and said, I just gave you a direct order. And then she went afterwards and said to him, you will meet me at the station, which means his ass is going to get written up for disobeying a direct order. And everybody on the scene got to see what that's going to look like for you if you decide to challenge her in the future. That's leadership. It's professionalism. It's what a supervisor is supposed to do. And so for that reason, Southern Draw Law's Good Cop of the Week goes out to Sergeant Alicia Meeker of the Little Rock Police Department. I hope you are showered with affection, as I'm sure you will be, because of the illustrious award that I've bestowed upon you. So thank you for being a professional and doing a good job and proving that women can actually supervise men if they're willing to develop a backbone and push back. That's all for this week's episode, guys. I hope you got something from it. I'd like to invite you to check us out on all the socials. I'll put up a QR code here that you can scan, and that will take you to the Linktree site where you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Substack. You can join on a paid tier of Substack if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. I don't put anything on these platforms that people have to pay for. If you don't want to follow us to other platforms, but you'd like to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe. Only about 10 to 15% of the people who watch the show on a regular basis are subscribed. It costs you nothing. It really helps us grow. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are in the comments section. I invite you to check out other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.